So, I mean, you were in the UFC for a long time, never got your title fight. What's it like having the belt just, a few feet away right there? Is it motivating, or what's it like just a few feet away from you?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal, and it's one of those things where it's motivating, and then I don't think about it at the same time. It's one of those things where I need to approach this fight like any other fight, and that's just an extra perk. It's a cherry on top at the end of the fight when you get your hand raised. There's no added pressure. You don't train differently. There's more motivation, but it's the same. You train for a 5-round fight. You train for that fighter, and then it's just a little extra perk at the end. You win, you get your hand raised. That's exciting enough, but then you get a belt wrapped around your waist. So that's the way I approach it. So I'm not overthinking anything or fighting a certain way or anything like that. I'm going to go out there, let loose, have fun, and get that belt.
Yeah, and I know you're a very professional athlete. You take this very seriously. But what's it like being just a few feet away from Phil over there? I mean, is there any tension? What kind of goes through your head when you look over and see him there?
Oh, not at all. I've known Phil for a long time, and it's we can talk some smack together, to each other, but we're fine. And it's just one of those things where you're going to see your opponent too throughout the fight week, and he was trying to get in my head. I took the escalator and he ran up the stairs, so I told him, was he trying to make me look bad or what, And so it's just one of those things where you just have fun with it. We're professionals. I've had close to 30 fights. I don't need animosity or anything to go in there and fight somebody. I fought one of my good friends back in the day on Ultimate Fighter. We got Kyle Kingsbury. We got announced a fight, and I was the only guy I knew in the whole show. And so it's just one of those. It's business. Yeah. It's no hard feelings. You go in there and do what you got to do, and then afterwards you can go back to being friends or being acquaintance or whatever.
Yeah, and so, I heard before we were rolling camera here, a lot of people probably just think your history goes back to the one UFC fight, but it goes back even before that to wrestling days. Just tell me a little bit about that. What's like your first interactions with Phil, and talk a little bit about the wrestling matches you guys had.
Yeah, I think it was a year that he was a national champ, I believe, but I wrestled him in one of the I think the quarterfinals of national tournament, and he beat me in a close match. And so that was always brought up, and before our last fight, so he has a win over me wrestling, I have a win over him in MMA, and here we go. Here's the third fight, and for a belt, winner gets a trophy kind of deal to finish it all off. So it's fun. It's fun to look back and have a competitive history with a guy, So I know he wants to get that fight back, and I want to make it an even bolder statement, with this fight.
Yeah. And I mean, what was I gonna say? I know you've talked about with the way your contract is structured with Bellator, you feel you're going to be a lot more, free in the cage rather, and to, approach it that way. What does that really mean though? Like when you're actually talking about how you go out there and perform, because obviously you don't want to be like reckless and put yourself in a situation get knocked out or something like that. So what does that really mean?
So, there's a couple of different structures. And UFC likes to use like a show and a win structure, where you show up, you get a certain amount, you win, you get usually the same amount, double. So, and their thinking is kind of go in there and you're gonna, fight your ass off to secure that half your pay, But sometimes it works out the opposite, where if you're so much better at a certain discipline than somebody else, that you're going to use that. So say if I'm a wrestler and I'm fighting, a striker or whatnot, I'm going to do everything in my power, keep it on the ground. And obviously I'm trying to finish every fight out there, and those guys are. But you're thinking about, I got to get my half my pay too, so I'm going to win this fight at any means necessary, whether that's taking him down and trying to just ground and pound him on the ground and end up being a boring fight or whatnot. So with more of a flat fee, which I have with Bellator, you go out there and it's just, you're not fighting for that extra. So you can fight however you want. You're not going to be reckless, but you can kind of let loose a little more, and it's more freeing. You're getting your payment no matter what. And so you go out there and have fun, and fight, have a great fight for the fans, and you don't have to worry like, all right, I had a great fight for the fans, but I end up getting caught, and now I lose out on half my pay. So that's what it kind of meant with that whole pay structure.